Tene Brahma Hidaya Adhikavaye Muyakti Atsuraya Tejo Varimidam Yata Vinimayo Yatra Trisargo Misha Damna Sena Sada Nirasta Kuhakam Satyam Param Dimahi. O my Lord, Sri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, O all-pervading personality of Godhead, from our respectful obeisances unto you, I meditate upon Lord Sri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the prime evil cause of all causes, of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of the manifested universes. And he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. I'm sorry, he is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations. And he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being. By him, even the great sages and demigods were placed into illusion. As one is bewildered by the illusory representations of water seen on fire or land seen on water. Only because of him do the material universes, temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of nature, appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Sri Krishna, who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode, which is forever free from the illusory representations of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. Dharma Pujita Kaitravotra Paramo Vimatsanam Sitam Vedyam Vasavam Atra Vastu Shivedam Tapa Trayamuna Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Kute Kimva Parir Ishwaraha Sadyo Vidya Varugyate Tra Kriti Bihi Sususu Vistakshanat. Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated. This Bhagavata Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity, is sufficient within itself for God realization. What is the need of any other scripture? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart. Nikama kapatarur palitam phalam sukhamukha amritam dravya samgitam pibata bhagavatam rasam mayam muhur ahora sakabhuti bhavakaha. O expert and thoughtful man, relish Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desire tree of Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 8, verse number 27. My obeisances are unto you, who are the property of the materially impoverished. You have nothing to do with the actions and reactions of the material modes of nature. You are self-satisfied, and therefore you are the most gentle and are master of the most. Purported by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. A living being is finished as soon as there is nothing to possess. Therefore, a living being cannot be, in the real sense of the term, a renouncer. A living being renounces something for gaining something more valuable. A student sacrifices his childish proclivities to gain better education. A servant gives up his job for a better job. Similarly, a devotee renounces the material world not for nothing, but for something tangible in spiritual value. Srila Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, and Srila Raghunath Das Goswami and others gave up their worldly pomp and prosperity for the sake of the service of the Lord. They were big men in a worldly sense. The Goswamis were ministers in the government service of Bengal. And Srila Raghunath Das Goswami was the son of a big zamindar of his time. But they left everything to gain something superior to what they previously possessed. The devotees are generally without material prosperity, but they have a very secret treasure house in the lotus of the Lord. There's a nice story about Srila Sanatana Goswami. He had a touchstone, and this stone was left in a pile of refuse. A needy man took it, but later on wondered why the valuable stone was kept in such a neglected place. He therefore asked Sanatana Goswami for the most valuable thing, and then he was given the holy name of the Lord. Akinchana means one who has nothing to give materially. A factual devotee or Mahatma does not give anything material to anyone because he has already left all material assets. He can, however, deliver the supreme asset, namely the personality of Godhead, because he is the only property of a fact, because he, or the Lord, is the only property of a factual devotee. The touchstone of Sanatana Goswami, which was thrown in the rubbish, was not the property of the Goswami. Otherwise, it would not have been kept in such a place. This specific example is given for the neophyte devotees just to convince them that material hankerings and spiritual advancement go ill together. Unless one is able to see everything as spiritual in relation with the Supreme Lord, one must always distinguish between spirit and matter. A spiritual master like Srila Sanatana Goswami, although personally able to see everything as spiritual, set this example for us only because we have no such spiritual vision. Advancement of material vision or material civilization is a great stumbling block for spiritual advancement. Such material advancement entangles the living being in the bondage of a material body, followed by all sorts of material miseries. Such material advancement is called anartha, or things not wanted. Actually, this is so. In the present context of material advancement, one uses lipstick at a cost of 50 cents. It costs a lot more than that nowadays. Maybe in India it costs 50 cents. And there are so many unwanted things which are all products of the material conception of life. By diverting attention to so many unwanted things, human energy is spoiled without achievement of spiritual realization, the prime necessity of human life. The attempt to reach the moon is another example of spoiling energy, because even if the moon is reached, the problems of life will not be solved. The devotees of the Lord are called akinchanas, because they have practically no material assets. Such material assets are all products of the three modes of material nature. They foil spiritual spiritual energy. In other words, they destroy spiritual energy. And thus, the less we possess such products of material nature, the more we have a good chance for spiritual progress. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has no direct connection with material activities. All his acts and deeds, which are exhibited even in this material world, are spiritual and without affection for the modes of material nature. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that all his acts, even his appearance and disappearance in and out of the material world, are transcendental. And one who knows this perfectly shall not take his birth again in this material world, but will go back to Godhead. The material disease is due to hankering after and lording it over material nature. This hankering is due to an interaction of the three modes of nature, and neither the Lord nor the devotees have attachment for such false enjoyment. Therefore, the Lord and his devotees are called Nivrita Guna Vritti. The perfect Nivrita Guna Vritti is the Supreme Lord because he never becomes attracted by the modes of material nature, whereas the living beings have such a tendency. Some of them are entrapped by the illusory attraction of material nature. Because the Lord is the property of the devotees, and the devotees are the property of the Lord reciprocally, the devotees are currently transcendental to the modes of material nature. That is a natural conclusion. Such unalloyed devotees are distinct from the mixed devotees who approach the Lord for mitigation of miseries and poverty or because of inquisitiveness and speculation. The unalloyed devotees and the Lord are transcendentally attached to one another. For others, the Lord has nothing to reciprocate, and therefore he is called Atmaram, self-satisfied. Self-satisfied as he is the master of all monists who seek to merge into the existence of the Lord. Such monists merge within the personal effulgence of the Lord, called the Brahmajyoti, but the devotees enter into the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, which are never to be misunderstood as material. Srila Prabhupada, Patita Pavan, Ki Jai. So many points here. First and foremost is that you never give something up unless you get something better. Now most people think something better is becoming rich and having big houses and cars and boats and second houses and third houses and fourth houses and more boats and more cars and more wives and more this and more that. They think that's success. Eating more, sleeping more, having a more comfortable bed, and so forth. You can go to Walmart or you can go to Costco and you'll see all the things that they need because they think those things are necessary for happiness. But the devotee is akinchana. He's given up, or she has given up, all attempts at becoming wealthy. Why? Well, that's why Chaitanya's prayer. I don't want any amount of money. I don't want beautiful women. I don't want any followers. All I want is your cause of devotion service, birth after birth. We say that every day. Do we mean it? That's the question. Do we actually mean it? Most people don't mean it at all. Because if there's material poverty, loss of wealth, they want to commit suicide. They think, I lost everything. I had so much, now I don't have anything. Right? But actually, that's the meaning of akinchana, not knowing anything. But the only asset that the devotee has is the Lord himself. Just like people come up to the devotee and say, Prabhupada, Asirvad, oh Prabhu, please, Asirvad, please give me your mercy. But what mercy do we have to give? Right? You can't give them material wealth, you can't give them second wife, you can't give them another car, we can't give them any of those things, right? So what can we give them? The only thing we can give them that we have is Krishna. So that's the whole point. What is most valuable in life? The car, the wife, the house, or Krishna? That's what we have to decide in our life. What is actually more important? What is actually a step up? Most people think it's a step down. Right? That's why one time there was a train in India, and Prabhupada had one of those train what do you call that, the sitting room, you know, where you have seats on both sides and people are facing each other, right? A cabinet, what? No, it's not the waiting room. It's the train itself, in the train itself. You're too young, probably, is the thing. You know? You haven't been in the real trains. Right? Huh? Yeah, compartment, yeah. So that used to be the way. You'd be sitting there looking at other people and they'd be looking at you. So, some Indian men, some Hindus wanted to see Prabhupada. So Prabhupada said, okay. So they came in and they said, Asirvad, like this. And Prabhupada said, this is the Asirvad. He was pointing to one brahmacharis. And they looked at that and they were like shocked. And Prabhupada said, this is the Asirvad. Don't you understand? You become like this. This is the real Asirvad. And they couldn't understand. They were like shocked. They didn't know what he meant. Oh, they knew what he meant, but that's not what they wanted. That's not what they meant by Asirvad. So you see this whole idea, what is the real blessing that you can get? Now, the phony gurus, they say, oh, well, you get some bhasma from my Gurudev and your business will do better. Bhasma is some ash. Right? How much does ash cost? Not even 1 pence. You know, what's the lowest? Not even 1 paisa. Right? Pence is English. Yeah. Paisa. Not even 1 paisa it costs, right? You light a match to some wood or something, you get a whole bunch of bhasma, right? So, but the idea is he gives you some bhasma and you go home, your business does better. But that's not a real blessing. That's actually a curse. Just one time, Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda were walking together, and Lord Chaitanya said, there's one Brahmana that lives close by. And Lord Nityananda said, let's go see the Brahmana, offer our respects. So they went, and there was one Brahmana there, and they bowed down to him, and they gave their respects. And he said, you young boys, may you have good wife, may you have good wealth, and may you have many children. And Lord Nityananda looked at Lord Chaitanya and said, that didn't sound like a blessing. The Lord said, that was not a blessing. So they realized this was a materialistic Brahmana, so-called Brahmana, right? And they both got up and ran as fast as they could and jumped into the Ganges so they would not get contaminated. Now, what is it that people ask nowadays? Like I went to Srirangam, and in Srirangam there's many small temples around the big temple. So you go to each temple and each Brahmana says, Ayur Arogya Aishwarya. They give the blessing. Ayur, long life, Arogya, health, Aishwarya, wealth. Now does that sound like a blessing? Yeah, it sounds like a blessing, right? But it's not. It's actually a curse. You're going to have long life, you're going to have health, and you're going to have wealth. What does that mean? Normally, most people get very attached to those things. That means you take birth again. And so many people die nowadays, you know, with $4 billion in the bank, or $400,000 in the bank, or $40,000 in the bank. That is not good. It's better to die with nothing in the bank because you used it all for Krishna consciousness. And even Prabhupada, when he left his body, he left some money to his family, his wife and his kids. It was modest, but it was respectable. And everything else, he gave to ISKCON. Everything. Right? So, but he was a grihastha, so he had a responsibility. Of course, his son sued ISKCON. Right? And they settled after many years of being in court with something like, I forget exactly, maybe 10 or 20 or lakhs. Because he claimed that ISKCON belonged to him, that he's the son. Did you know that? Yeah. And very embarrassing things. Of course, he had 5 kids. Only one son sued ISKCON. The other son, Vrindavan, there was a very, very good man. He was a devotee. So anyway, we see that people don't really understand what is a blessing. And the real blessing is that devotee can give Krishna and knowledge of Krishna and the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And then another major point here, that it says, the story of Sanatana Goswami is very important. He had a touchstone. Whatever you want, you can get from that touchstone. It's a very rare thing to have in the material world. Many people have looked for such things in the past, because you can get whatever you want from it. However, he kept it in the garbage. And one man heard about it. He was a worshiper of Lord Shiva. And he worshipped Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva revealed to him that he should go and see Sanatana Goswami if he wanted the blessing of, so-called blessing of material wealth. And he went to see him. And he said, I heard you have a touchstone, Chintamani stone. He said, yes. He said, can I see it? He said, no, you can have it. He said, really? He said, yes. He said, where is it? And he pointed some area where he was keeping rubbish. He said, it's in there. And the man took it. And he was extremely happy. Now he could have whatever he wanted. And Lord Shiva sent him to the right place, to the right person. But then he was thinking, why is this sadhu keeping it in the rubbish? He must think it's not worth anything. But how is that? So he was curious. He was a smart man in many ways, right? So he went back and gave us a base and said, please tell me why you're keeping it in the rubbish. He said, you really want to know? He said, yes. Okay, you put it back in the rubbish, I'll tell you. So that was not easy for that man, but because he had such respect for Sanatana Goswami, he did it. Actually, I think he told him, throw it into the Yamuna. Yeah, so then you'll never find it again. And he came back and he said, yes. And he said, okay, now repeat it to me. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare. Hare Rama. Hare Rama. Rama Rama. Hare Hare. So this is the blessing. Now, what does he mean by that? Well, because the name of Krishna is not different than Krishna. If you chant the name sincerely, and we read yesterday or the day before, chanting with feeling, right? Well, what does that mean? He says, a helpless man can feelingly utter the holy name of the Lord, whereas a man who utters the same holy name in great material satisfaction cannot be so sincere. A materially puffed up person may utter the holy name of the Lord occasionally, but he is incapable of uttering the name in quality. Quality. Therefore, the 4 principles of material advancement, namely high parentage, good wealth, high education, and attractive beauty, are, so to speak, disqualifications for progress on the path of spiritual advancement. The material covering of the pure spirit soul is an external feature, as much as fever is an external feature of the unhealthy body. The general process is to decrease the degree of the fever and not to aggravate it by maltreatment. Sometimes it is seen that spiritually advanced persons become materially impoverished. This is no discouragement. On the other hand, such impoverishment is a good sign as much as the falling of temperature is a good sign. The principle of life should be to decrease the degree of material intoxication, which leads one to be more and more illusioned about the aim of life. Grossly illusioned persons are quite unfit for entrance into the kingdom of God. Now, this is exactly why many parents don't want their kids to become Krishna conscious in India. As soon as a kid says, I want to be Krishna conscious, I want to join the temple, they say, no, don't do it. We'll give you whatever you want. Just like Raghunath Das Goswami. He wanted to go to Lord Chaitanya. And parents got him married right away to a very beautiful young girl. Right? And they gave him, so much responsibility to help them manage all their wealth and so forth. Right? So that's tying up a person. Now, is it bad to get married? No, nothing is bad if it's used in Krishna's service. But the intention of Raghunath Das Goswami's parents was to tie him up, get him materially entangled, so he would not think about Lord Chaitanya. So it all depends on what the motive is. The motive, if it's material, it ruins everything, even the good thing, like Krishna consciousness. It ruins it. But if the motive is nirmama nirahankara sasantyam adhigachati, I don't want to be possessor of anything, and I don't have any false ego concept that the more I possess, the greater person I am. All I want is peace of mind so I can always chant the holy name of the Lord. That's it. Sasantyam adhigachati. So now another point here, and there are many points here, we won't be able to cover them all. He says that because the Lord is the property of the devotees, and the devotees are the property of the Lord reciprocally, devotees are certainly transcendental to the modes of material nature. So when a person thinks my only real possession is the holy name of the Lord, which is not different than the Lord himself, then they can transcend the modes of material nature. As long as we think, I'm proprietor of this, I'm proprietor of that, I have this, I have that, and here's the list of all my possessions, and that makes me a great person. That person is in total illusion, they're bound up, and they will never get Krishna consciousness. Never, no matter what they do. It's only when one becomes a kinchana goka. I have nothing material. The only thing I have is the holy name of the Lord and service of the Lord. So, therefore it says, Nadanam, Najanam, Nasundaram, Kavitam Bhajan, Yishikamaye, Mama Janmani Janmani Sware, Bhavatat Bhaktira Haitu Kitvaye. I don't want any amount of wealth, I don't want beautiful women, I don't want any number of followers. All I want is your causeless devotional service. Now what does that mean, causeless? That means there's no reason why we should be blessed with Krishna consciousness. It's only Krishna's sweet will that we may be attracted to Krishna consciousness. We did not deserve it. How can we deserve it after passing so many lifetimes in the material world? No. It's the causeless mercy of Krishna and his devotees. That's why it says causeless. We didn't do anything to deserve Krishna consciousness. It's just the causeless mercy of the Lord. Just like you can't tell a rich man how to spend his money. He worked hard or she worked hard to get their money. You can't tell them how to spend it. But if they want to give it away to charity, that's their business. And if they don't want to give it away to charity, that's their business. You see? So the same way, you can't tell Krishna, I did this, I did that, therefore give me eternal life. He's not obliged to give anything. It's his causeless mercy and the causeless mercy of his devotees. So therefore it says that because the Lord is the property of the devotees and the devotees are the property of the Lord reciprocally, the devotees are certainly transcendental to the modes of material nature. Now being the property, when a devotee thinks that I am the property of the Lord, that means that he will not do anything, or she will not do anything that is not ordained by the Lord. And how do we know what the Lord ordains? Is by the words and the example of this bona fide spiritual master. So here it says, that is the natural conclusion. Such unalloyed devotees are distinct from mixed devotees. Now here's comparing a mixed devotee, that means they have mixed desires. They have some desire for Krishna consciousness, but they still have desire for material wealth. and material sense gratification. But the unalloyed or pure devotees and the Lord are transcendently attached to one another. Such unalloyed devotees are distinct from the mixed devotees who approach the Lord for mitigation of miseries and poverty, or because of inquisitiveness and speculation. So those are four types of devotees that come to the Lord, but there are four reasons for coming. They want to get rid of their suffering, they want material wealth, they're just curious, or they want to know what the absolute truth is. Those are materially motivated. However, by engaging in devotional service and associating devotees, those material motivations can become purified. The unalloyed devotees in the Lord are transcendently attached to one another. How do you get purified? What does it mean to get purified? Even from the desire to know the absolute truth, when you're attached to Krishna. That's when you're purified. When you're really attached to Krishna and His holy name and His service, that's when you're purified. Wanting to know what the absolute truth is, you can have a material reason for that. Just like, you look at someone like so-called Bhagavan Rajneesh, he had some knowledge. Or you look at Ma Amritamai, or this one, or that one. They all have some knowledge, right? But they're using it for their own profit. So it's not, that's still a material desire. But when one is attached to Krishna, that's a different thing. The unalloyed devotees of the Lord are transcendently attached to one another. For others, the Lord has nothing to reciprocate, and therefore he is called Atmarama, self-satisfied. Self-satisfied as he is the master of all monists who seek to merge into the existence of the Lord. Such monists merge within the personal causes of the Lord called the Brahmajyoti, but the devotees enter into the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, which are never to be misunderstood as material. So this is important. This last point is of extreme importance, and we'll discuss this tomorrow because it's a very, very important point. It is something that every devotee has to understand, but we'll leave it to tomorrow. All glory to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hare Krishna Mahamantra Ki Jai. Hare Krishna.